So we support almost startups from various sectors like EV, automobile, EV, mobility, clean energy, AI, IoT, and so on, healthcare, and all these sectors startup, we support them here right from their initiation stage to graduation. And today we have organized an talk where we keep doing these kind of activities so that startup community gets benefited out of it. Now I would like to introduce Mr. Syed sir. He is a serial entrepreneur and has started has founded two enterprises till date. One is Alan's Pay, and the second one is Let's Scale, which was then further taken over by Lawyered, and that is how now he's working with Lawyered firm, which helps startups in their legal aspects in every stage which they need. So I would like to now hand over the mic without wasting any time to Syed sir. Syed sir, if you can take over.
Thank you, Aditya. Also, thank you for inviting me for this particular session. I think you're doing a wonderful job as an AIC. So it's always honor to be part of the AIC network, because the kind of incubation infrastructure you have been able to build probably as a community, and been in directly touch with other AICs also, mentoring them. What I felt is the way AIC works, nobody else works in the country. So that they are actually setting up the example as an incubation for the entire company and building the infrastructure. Apart from that, I would like to welcome everybody who's joined the session. See, there are normally two kinds of session. One where I keep sharing my secrets, and these are the session where people open cameras. Where 50 people open their cameras, I also share their secrets. So I don't mind if you are sitting in a room, in a garden, walking around, not a problem. But if you'll open your cameras, definitely I would like to see some of the growing entrepreneurs of future from India. And also I would like to share some of the secrets, which definitely nobody else is going to tell you, because that's what I have learned in last 5 years, teaching to more than 5,000 startups. So I've been working with 250 incubation centers right now in the country, and working with more than 5,000 startups, guiding them. So I would be thankful to people who can open it, and rest, if there's a problem, of course we can find. One is okay for the other. So thank you everyone. Krishna, Akshay, thank you so much for opening your cameras. Really appreciate. Siddhaste also, and everybody, Manali, thank you so much. Lakshmi Narayanji, thank you so much. Sumita, what a wonderful, you really feel me proud, and I'm feeling motivated about this session. So I would make things easy for you in this session by helping you out to understand DPIIT registration, which is normally, in normal language, we call it Startup India registration. So why at all we are talking about? So we have certain, as you can see in the background, my background, we have 4 questions that we will try to answer in this session, and that would be magical for you if you can able to understand what all we are talking about. We'll talk why we are talking about Startup India. Well, what is that it is important, why we should talk, why it is relevant at all, when we need to talk about Startup India, when it is necessary, how, and then how. Well, if I want to take the benefits of Startup India, how can actually I can take? See, let's start with the simple fact, whenever we build an ecosystem, whenever we want to make something possible, for example, many of you will relate. Suppose we want to set up a fishery, like a place where we can actually get the fishes done, or fishes raised. Or apart from that also, I think there's some bandwidth issue probably, which I would believe will be sorted out. And if not, I will please just let me know. So what I was telling, I was giving an example of how fishery is done. I was also giving an example how horticulture is done. For example, if you want to set up a garden, how will you set up a garden? You can set up a garden only when you will be able to set up the infrastructure and the ecosystem for that garden. For example, you need a proper land, which is fertile. Then you of course need the proper seeds or small plants that can actually grow in that particular area. Then you will like to arrange a regular water system where you can put I'm not talking about irrigation, but a place from which you can put water to your flowers. Then there should be no extra heat, extra sunlight. So what you're trying to build, you're trying to help the plants to grow so well that you have a complete garden full of flowers that you feel, that will make you feel happy. Likewise, the government of India thought that we have such budding stars, budding entrepreneurs. We need to give them an ecosystem so that they can come up with their own ventures. Earlier, before, like if I talk about before 2010, it was very difficult to start your own venture. It was very difficult even to think that you can start a venture. So what Startup India has basically done is created an ecosystem. So in order to do a startup, you need 3, 4 things. You can point it down in your mind, and these are really workable things for you. First, to build a startup, you need people. People can be in the form of your co-founders. People can be in the form of your network. People can be in the form of your mentors. People can be in the form of your investors. So for a venture to set up, to create a successful venture, you need to have a circle or a network or a group of people. So for people is the first requirement. Second, in order to build a startup, what people know, what people like entrepreneurs like you need is basically access to capital. See, so like for flowers, we need proper what you call manures and fertilizers. Likewise, for setting up a venture, what do we need? We need finances, access to finance. If we don't have access to finances, what will the problem? We will dry out. We will run short of cash and we will not be able to run the company. Then what we're trying to build is first, when I'm talking about Startup India, what they're trying to give us. First, they're trying to give us access to people because it is an important aspect to set up or run a company. Second, what they are trying to give you access to capital, because if you don't have money, it would be difficult for you. These are 2 important things which they are also giving. Third is support. Support is like there is a plant. It is a plant which cannot grow without support. For example, it's a hanging plant. It's a plant that somebody has commented that audio is not connected. Is it so?
No, it is not for you. Actually, it is for one person who was facing issue in the.
Okay. Let's go back with the flow.
Yes.
I was just about to build my garden and I just suddenly stopped. So what I was telling is, in order to make every entrepreneurial thought a successful venture, the government of India has decided to take care of this garden, which is called Entrepreneurship World of India, where they have given us access to the capital, access to people, access to scheme, access to I'll say processes, access to, for example, there is another kind of access that they've given, access to government schemes, access to government grants. For example, see, normally funding is a mechanism where you give something and then you take something. But government has created a grant segment also where you don't have to give anything to anyone. But because of the work, the great work you're doing, you get benefit from the government. So what I was actually trying to tell you is, government has built an ecosystem where whatever a founder, whatever an entrepreneur needs is made available on Startup India website. How? I would just like to tell you, there are multiple kinds of benefit that they have promised to give you once you register with Startup India. That's one thing which I will talk one by one to like all the points. Second, they have made accessibility of people. They have listed the mentors. So if, for example, somebody is building a EV venture, somebody is building a food tech venture, somebody is building fintech venture, so what do you need? You need validation, you need expert opinions, you need mentor opinion. Then how would you get it? So rather than finding here and there, rather than struggling with same kinds of people, you can visit the Startup India website and you can get number of people who are listed as mentor on the website. They are the experts who are already helping a lot of people. So you can get access of mentors also, people which I'm telling you. Second, you must be also looking for investors. You must be struggling to get some angel investors. So normally to raise fund, there are few people from which who can raise fund. First and foremost, we all have heard that funding can be raised through family and friends that we know where to get from. So we know we have to reach to our family members or to a friend who has money. When the circle comes to get money from angel investor, venture capitalists, syndicates, where do we find it? the first place where you can find all the investors. It is also categorized on the basis of your industry. So you can get your investors from the Startup India website. So what you get is first access. Government of India has made you accessible with regard to the people. So you get the people, whatever kind of people you want, mentors, investors from the place. Second is Government of India has established certain funds for you. One of the fund is funds for fund. Second fund is seed fund that is a recent scheme which has been created by government of India. I'll tell you what is the benefit of that scheme, how you can avail. So just wanted to give you a backdrop that it's an ecosystem. They have tried to give you people, money, schemes, offerings, and lot of benefits as a venture, which normally people don't get it. Let's talk about why we are talking about. See, so in every country, there are certain rules and regulations which are made for everybody. And then there are made some exception to it. People who are weak are given exception, or people who are talented enough, exceptionally talented, who do not even require, for example, to be part of a exam, you need to have a certain age. Suppose there is a person who is smart enough to pass that examination and he is not even crossing to the line. So what the people do is, in order to back that talent, we create exceptional rules. The government of India has created exceptional rule for you for the startups and created Startup India website and given you certain benefits. I'll talk about the benefits one by one, which will help you understand what are the basic benefits. Most important thing, the very first thing is the purpose of Startup India is to reduce the regulatory burden. So what is the regulatory burden? If suppose you are not a startup and you want to run a business, you want to run a company, what happens? When you start and run a company and you're not registered with Startup India, what happens? There are lot of, I think there's some disturbance.
Okay, done. Uh, you got any option on screen for unmuting? So yes, sir. Okay, just a second. You are unmute, sir. Right.
Yes, better. So what I was telling is basically why at all I as a startup need to register with Startup India. So why at all we people talk about Startup India? What are the benefits that force you to or encourage you to register with Startup India? The first thing is I was telling that in order to run a company in a country, you need to follow certain regulation. And startups are also kind of an entity which needs to follow those regulations. But what Startup India has done, they've said that if you are enrolling yourself with Startup India registration, we'll give you certain exemption. For example, certain exemption with the taxation, exemption with the labor laws, exemption with the environmental laws, exemption with regard to the certain fees. So I'll tell you what are the benefits that Startup India has basically given to a startup. So I'll first start with, you understand what I've said is there are a lot of regulation for a normal company, but there are certain exemption to those norms for a startup. So that is what I would be basically discussing. The first benefit as a startup you get when you register with Startup India is basically you get exemption for 3 years. Exemption for 3 years for not paying the taxes. So you can, for example, whenever you register yourself from that year, you can choose any 3 continuous year where even if you're earning around 100 crores, you don't have to pay the taxes to the government. So government is helping you out to to function tax-free, and you don't have to pay taxes for next 3 years. Second is, since the government idea is to boost your innovation, what they have done is they have made the patent process easy for you by reducing the prices. So filing a patent is, of course, is a difficult task, and it's also requires a lot of monetary, it involves a lot of monetary involvement. So you need to pay certain fees to the government and certain fees to the professional. So the government, they decided that in order to motivate innovation, what we will do is we will reduce the cost which the startup has to pay when they have to register their patent. So what they have done is basically they have reduced the cost. For example, if I'll give you, uh, if you are a normal company or if you're a normal LP, when you go approach to trademark department that I need to file this trademark, what they would ask you for paying 9,000 government fees. But when you apply as a startup and say that I'm a startup, this is my certificate, the same cost is reduced to 50%, where then you'll be paying 4,500. So what is actually happening? It is saving your cost. So the government has basically motivated the startup that if you get this certificate, you will be able to get benefit in terms of pricing when you are filing your trademarks and the patent especially. So this is the second benefit you get. Third is uh, relaxation with the terms of labor laws and relaxation in terms of the environmental laws. So in order to function in the country, there are certain labor laws which are applicable to all and every startup. For example, Payment of Wages Act, also the Provident Fund Act, Compensation Act, Workmen Compensation Act, and there are more than 40 labor laws which are applicable on every company. But there are certain labor laws which are important, but they are not applicable on the startups. Then the startup is self-certify that, see, I am complying that, and that won't be even questioned by the government. And also likewise, there are, in order to function in the country, there are certain environmental laws that you need to follow. So and those environmental laws are also exempted. So like, for example, you set up a manufacturing company, so there are certain regulations which are water act, there is an air act, there is an environment act. So if you don't have this certification, you need to get clearance from the environmental department, and that's a very lengthy and a hectic process. But for the startups, if you do similar kind of innovation, you can actually self-certify yourself by visiting the website, and it would be easily done for you. That's the third benefit you get. The fourth benefit which you as a startup get is basically, see, not every startup is successful. We understand. We make best attempts, and we may be successful. We have to face failure also. 95% of the startups fail in the first 5 years of their journey. So doing startup is also very tough. So what happens normally earlier, 10 years earlier, what was happening? People were not opening companies to do startup. The reason was it was very difficult to close your company. So one, opening is also difficult, but if you fail and you have to close it, it was very difficult. So now the government of India has, in order to encourage entrepreneurship, what they've said is, if you open, if you try to get benefit, get it. If you like to close it because of any problem, we will make the process of closure very easy for you. So the process for closure of business is easy for a startup, unlike the corporates. Then when a normal business take investment from somebody, maybe an institution, maybe an individual, which we call as an angel investment or a VC investment, what happens whenever you sell your share on premium? For example, your normal shares are 10 rupees, but you come up with a valuation and you sell your shares at 1,000 rupees. So what you're doing is 990 is your premium. So what the government normally expect is, if you are selling your shares on premium, you have to pay taxes to the government. You have to pay taxes. But now for the startups, in order to encourage investment, this has been removed. We said now it is called in general language, the angel tax has been exempted as per the section 56. So the people feel relaxed that my investment will not be tax. My investment will get exempted if I invest in the startup. That's also another benefit. Now, when I talk about, these were the basically regulatory benefits that you were getting. Tax, apart from tax, most of the benefits were regulatory benefits. Now I'll talk about the monetary benefits. monetary benefit that the government is basically helping out with. The government has created funds which are exclusive to the startups. The funds are, I've told you that there are two funds of fund is one fund which is managed by SIDBI. Basically, here what the government wants is the government is not directly investing the fund in the startup. What they've done is they have chosen SIDBI as the mechanism which will identify particular venture capitalists. If you will go to the SIDBI website, I can share the link as well. There are multiple venture capitalists who are listed. For example, Artha Ventures is one who are the initial investor in Oyo. A fund is dedicated to them. They look for startups and then they invest into the startup. That's one way of basically mobilizing the funds for startup. Recently, in 2019, the government has on January 16, which is a Startup India Day. So the government has announced another 1,000 crore rupees fund. Now the challenge is we as a startup don't know that these funds are made for us. So some people think that these are fund only for the people who are making revenue. Some people think that these are the funds only for the people who are who have done their proofs of concept. But this new seed fund scheme, which has been launched by the government, is for people who are at a very early stage, who have not even launched the product. They are working for the proof of concept. So it's a 1 crore fund. How does it work? This fund is basically working that if you want this fund, there's a simple website. I can share the link as well. You just need to visit the website. You have to apply through incubators. So the government is not saying that I'll give the fund directly. You have to apply it through incubators. So you have preference that if you're a startup like AIC-Pinnacle is one of the incubation center. So if they are entitled to startups seed fund, you can actually take the fund through them. And how you get it? You have to apply the form. That would be basically there would be analysis that will be taken care, and on the basis of the analysis, you will be granted 20 lakh rupees fund, and there is an additional fund of 50 lakh if you reach out to the milestone. A 50 lakh rupees grant is given to you through the incubation center. So these are the two funds that are directly available made available by the government. Apart from that, there are multiple other grants also which people normally don't know. For example, there are state-based fund. For example, your incubation is in Maharashtra, and Maharashtra has its own Startup India website. So there is a Maharashtra startup policy, and on that portal you will find there are a lot of funds which are very exclusive to the Maharashtra startup. So there is a fund which was called Ubharta Sitara Fund. So this fund is for startups who are working in the Maharashtra. So this is very exclusive for you. So right now we may be looking for funding. You can actually visit to these places, and the eligibility criteria and all of that is already mentioned on the website. So there are funds which are monitored by the central government. There are funds which are monitored by your government, which is your state government. And then there are funds on the basis of industry. For example, somebody is working in petroleum industry, somebody is working in railway industry, somebody is working on MSME industry. So every industry has its own fund. And these all funds are listed on Startup India website. So you can visit, search your category, and you will find that there are multiple grants which are available for you, by which using all of that, you can actually have accessibility of capital to run your business. So I've told you that Startup India can help you with the regulatory benefits, the capital benefit. So benefits we all know. There are multiple benefits that you as a startup get on Startup India by visiting the website and also by registering. The people who register get a lot of benefit, and the people who don't get at least some benefit by visiting the website. So now the question is when like whoever is present for the session, how can you be part of the Startup India campaign? So like, how can you enroll yourself on Startup India? When is the right time to get enrolled yourself in Startup India? And what is the best mechanism to it? And what is the process? How normally it is assessed that whether I am eligible for Startup India registration or not? See, whenever you form an LLP, whenever you form a private limited company, you are eligible for Startup India registration. So if you have private limited, irrespective of what industry you are in, irrespective of what stage you are at, irrespective of what team do you have. So if you are a private limited or an LP, the very next day you can apply for Startup India registration. Okay. Uh, what is the criteria? What is the criteria that is required to register yourself? You should not be a company which is 10 years old. So you should not be a company which is 10 years old. I'm telling you how, when you will register, what will be the requirement. The first requirement is, as a company, you should not be less older than 10 years. Second is your turnover should not be more than 100 crores. So your turnover should not be more than 100 crores. So that's the second eligibility criteria. Third is your entity should be original in the sense it should not be a merger entity created or acquired entity created. It has to be new complete entity rather than a mixture of two entities or a deleted entities. Second is there are three criteria that Startup India judges, which is not mentioned in the guidelines, but you have to aware in order to get the recognition. What are these three? First, Startup India always check whether the startup which is applying for Startup India is innovative or not. First requirement is innovative or not. How do we find whether we are innovative or not? You are innovative in simple sense. We write down the recipe of it. If you are innovative, if you are solving a problem which has not been solved for masses. So you are solving a problem which has not been solved for the masses. For example, if I talk about Uber, so Uber has solved a problem of finding taxis. It was not it was something that was already in existence, but they have. How do I consider Uber is a startup? Uber is a startup or not? Because they have not find out something new. They have actually come out with the same arrangement, but the idea of innovation has two definitions. One is you find out something which is innovative and which is a problem of masses which has not been solved. Second is you find out a solution which is 10x better than the existing solution. If you have these two characteristics in you, you are kind of an innovative startup. So UPI, for example, Paytm has created something new which was not in existence, so which is paying by scan code. So if you scan and you pay, we didn't knew it before it was launched. We didn't knew it that something like this can be happened. So they came out with a solution which is 100% new to the masses, and it solves a lot of big problem of the people. So it is innovative. Second, I gave you the example of Ola and Uber. They were not innovative in the sense that they have not found something new, but what they have given is they have given 10 times better productivity, 10 times better experience to the customer. So these are the two characteristics in order to identify whether a startup is innovative or not. What is the second thing that Startup India website looks for? Is that whether your business would be commercially viable or not. So even if you're a business which has a lot of impact, very innovative technology, but it does not have capability of making money, I believe your startup will not be entitled to get Startup India registration. In order to get the registration, in order to be entitled to be registered on Startup India website, you need to be commercially viable. Commercially viable means, in simple language, you have created a business model, you have created a product and service for which people are willing to pay you. So if people are not willing to pay for your services and for your products, then you are not a commercially viable business. Third important characteristic, that any investor or even Startup India or any person who is giving grant to you or fund to you would try to look into you is whether your startup is scalable or not. So one of the concern as an ecosystem enabler of Startup India is to find out solution which are scalable. When I say scalable in the sense that it should not be limited to a very, very small market. It should be so scalable that it can reach out to entire country and even to the global extent. So recently we have heard about lot of scenarios where we were talking that building local and making out reach global. So the idea is to create something that can reach out to the world as well. We yesterday only we had a news that NPCI, which is the body that regulates the UPI mechanism, has a MOU with the France body. So our product, which was very unique to India, has now reached to France, and the France will also be looking forward to use UPI in their country. So we have, it is a product which is basically which is basically scalable. So as a startup, uh, when Startup India would be adjusting your application, they would be looking for basically your innovation, your commercial viability, and your scalability. Now, what how normally the application is being made to Startup India. So you have to visit on the website of Startup India, which is very accessible from Google. There is a tab which is called recognition, get recognition, recognized as a startup. When you will do it, it will be a five stages form, where what they would actually like to know from you. First, they would like to know about your venture. Second, they would like to know about your legal entity. See, there is a brand and there is a legal entity. I'll tell you the difference. It will really be helpful for you. Paytm is a brand, but the company is 197 Private Limited. Now it's a limited company. So there is a brand name and there is a legal entity name. So your brand can be anything. The brand can be any different name also. But but the company would be a legal entity would be different. So the Startup India would like to know about your about the venture, about the legal entity. Also, they would like to know about the founders. They would also like to know about the revenue model, business model, commercial viability, innovation, and scalability. And there's another question which talks about whether you are creating some employment or not, and what is the potential that you can create employment in future or not. So whatever form you will be filling on the Startup India website would require you to give these 5 details. Once we provide these details on the website, you will be able to get your certificate. Sometimes what happens when you apply, because you have not given proper answer, your application would be rejected, and there would be a feedback given by the government that these are the problems that you need to rectify. So you need to rectify those and answer them again, and they will again review it and give it back. Earlier, it's like till 2019, it was very easy to get a Startup India registration. Now it has, the scrutiny has gone very up. It is very difficult to actually get the Startup India certificate. And you need to be very sure when you are filling it. Otherwise, once you get hung up with the objections, it is very difficult to pass on. So these are the basically requirements that you actually need to give. I have discussed about the innovation part. I would discuss about the commercial viability part. I have discussed about the scalability part. One thing they would like to know is about the founders. So as a founders, they would like to ask for the normal documents of yours, KYC document, where they would be asking for your Aadhaar card, the PAN card, and also a little of your background, what you have done it. And also they would like to know about the revenue model. What is revenue model and what is business model? I want to discuss, because it's a very common question. People are making mistake on Startup India website. Revenue business model is the mechanism by which you create money. Business model is basically a mechanism by which create. For example, business model is subscription is a business model, commission is a business model, sales is a business model, and you have heard about SaaS product. You have work about tokenization. All of that are basically kind of business model. So normally tech companies get into SaaS, subscription as a service, and they charge subscription for a particular service. And if you talk about Zomato, if you talk about Swiggy, what they're doing, they're actually charging subscription from their customers. YouTube has a simple access and a premium access. They're charging you the subscription. So subscription is one of the most preferable business model that is normally being acceptable. For example, if we talk about the website, these Flipkarts, the Amazon, what they do is they work on the commission model. So commission, subscription, these are kind of business model. How do you make money? And when I talk about revenue model is how much you charge from a particular transaction, how much of the money, what is the various vertical by which you making money. For example, revenue is, I get this much of amount, my per subscription charge is 199. So what I'm doing is my revenue would be number of customers plus the subscription cost that I'm getting. So these are the two things you need to explain, that this is how I am making money, and this is the potential money that I make, and this is the potential money that I can create in future. So business model and revenue model are the two things that you also need to understand. So if I go on my chart again, which is at my backside, is what is Startup India? We have understand Startup India is basically an ecosystem in order to help the entrepreneurs, the budding entrepreneurs, to be a well-known founders of big companies. That's what the purpose of Startup India basically. Why Startup India? As a startup, if you don't register yourself in Startup India, it would be very difficult for you to run a business because there are a lot of regulation applicable on you, and it is very difficult to comply all of that. And there would be a lot of time that would be invested and money invested. See, as a startup, you have two important resources available with you. One is your time, and second is the little capital that you have. So if you don't invest this capital and time wisely, it would be problematic for you. So what is clear? Why is clear? I've told you what are the benefits. While discussing why, I've told you that in Startup India, you get relaxation with the pricing when you are registering your IPRs. You get labor laws exemption, you get tax exemption, you get grants, you get a lot of schemes available on the Startup India website. And one thing I missed out while I was discussing why you should register. See, we are normally looking for events where I can pitch my product, where I can get into partnership, where I can find out other people with whom I can do business. Startup India is also regularly providing all these schemes and making you accessible, that they come up with regular events and scheme in which people can participate. They also organize award programs. They also organize international events where if somebody wants to launch their product in some other country, so if there is a collaboration between our government and their government, there would be a channel available for you to at least reach out to the new zones and the new countries also. That is also a benefit that you can get. Another important aspect, Government of India has made public procurement easy for startups. See, what does public procurement means? See, whatever services and products that you're building is made for people, and it can I directly sell through you, or it can be sold through the government also. So the government, every state government wants to purchase certain services and goods for their people through certain private entities, like you are the company. For example, if somebody is building electric station, so the government may be interested in buying electric station to in order to build their EV infrastructure. So what they've done is, earlier, when you have to basically reach out to the government in order to get the tender, what was the requirement? There were few requirements. One was earnest money deposit. So in order to participate in the tender, you had to give certain fixed amount, which is roughly around 3 to 5 lakh rupees, which was very difficult for a startup to give. Then you need to have early experience also. You need to show your turnover for past years. You need to show your earlier experience. But now the government has allowed that if you are a DPIIT registered startup, we will not ask you for the prior experience. So if you have created something new, beautiful, innovative, and helpful, you will be allowed to take part in the tenders, provide your goods and services to the government without depositing the earnest money. So you don't have to deposit the earnest money also. You don't have to have the prior experience also. You just need to show you will be able to execute the project. That's what you know. So I've discussed the what with you. I've discussed why with you. When I told you when you can register, the moment you register your company or LLP, you are eligible to register yourself in Startup India. So immediately go and get the benefit. There are no obligation. The best part is there are no obligation. So normally we are fearful from taking any license or any registration is that there might be certain hidden burdens on me. So when you go with Startup India, I rarely see that you have to feel any burden, because there's no obligation coming from this Startup India portal for you. So all there are most of the time it's the pros that you get. You hardly get any cons on this start by registering. So when is also clear. And how? I've told you the procedure is very simple for two things. One is for applying for Startup India registration, and second is how to get funds. So for Startup India registration, you have to simply go to Startup India website. There's a recognition page. You have to click it. What will be the requirement? The requirement they would be asking is about details about the venture, details about the legal entity, details about the founder, details about the business model, revenue model, and the innovation scalability part of your business. You need to put that detail, nothing more than that. One additional document that you need to put on Startup India website is your pitch deck and also your sanction letter. So sanction in or the authorization letter. For example, you are filing Startup India recognition through your company. So company is not a natural person. It acts through directors, it acts through authorized representative. So you need to have a board resolution where an authorized representative is basically appointed to file for the registration, and that authorization is also uploaded on the Startup India website. So before you apply for Startup India, you should be ready with your pitch deck, which is a document to pitch to investor or to pitch your business idea, and your authorized representation letter, so that the person who is filing it is permissible to do that. If you fill all these information, you can easily do it. If you find out any problem with this registration, what you can do is basically reach out to any professional. So you can reach out to your mentors, you can reach out to your AIC, or you can reach out to us also, because we help startup getting registered also, and also getting the fundings and the entire process, because that's our legal expertise. And probably we do it for free, because we have 10 sessions kept free for every startup who are registered with us. So if we have an exclusive partnership with AIC, where we actually extend that benefit to all the startups, that they can come talk to professional without paying anything. So we also give our bit in order to create the ecosystem. We cannot do as much as the government can, but probably the bit we can do is, like, we are also a partner to Startup India. We are registered as vendor over there. So we are a legal partner to them. So we also try to motivate our startup who are basically having DPIIT registration or trying to get the registration, and we are helping them out to basically register it on the website. So these are if you know what, why, when, how of any legal activity, I'm sure you will be able to do it. So if you use this chart, for example, let's talk about taxation, or let's talk about managing your GST. So if you know what is GST, why you have to take GST, when you have to file the GST, and how it would be done. This is a breakup chart. The secret is just behind me, and which was visible from the very first moment. The idea is, if you follow this chart from the very first moment, you can tackle all legal compliance fundraising activities on your own. You just have to make chart for all these. For example, I'll just give you a simple example. Every company needs to have a HR policy, or every company needs to have an ESOP policy, or every company needs to have an employment policy. So you need to understand what is employment policy, why a company needs an employment policy, when it needs to be executed, and how it can be actually used to set up the entire employment structure. See, these are very common things. If you ignore as a startup, it leads to a lot of problems. I'll just share one problem before I open the session for question. Recently, a startup came to me. He said, I am an AI-driven startup. I built this product. I employed one of the software engineers. He was very smart. He worked with me for 4 months. He worked with entire idea that I have, and he moved out. And I did get into any employment agreement. And he has started the same business like me. Now it's a problem. They are getting into a conflict since he didn't secure his business from the person who is employing. See, we all are young, we all are at early stage. We think that let's work on words, and is it okay to go with the verbal arrangement rather than having a documentation. Believe me, as a founder, you need to be aware about all the documentation, because in the absence of document, you cannot create a unicorn. Believe me, you can write it, come to me if it's possible for you to create a unicorn without the absence of document. So every transaction which you do has some financial implication, and financial implication, or the financial transactions cannot be secured unless and until you have a written document. It has all the rights, it has all the duties. If you write it, even for the basic co-founder document. So most of the startup, 50% startup in India have co-founder dispute. 30% die just because of co-founder dispute. So what happens? There are two people start a business, later they get into conflict. and the business gets affected. So I'm an investor, would never like to put money in a startup where there are co-founder dispute existing. And how do you take care of these co-founder dispute? You just create a simple co-founder agreement. It's a very simple 2-3 page documents. You create it for once and it is for life. So whenever there is a conflict, you come out with this piece of paper. Hey, brother, this is what we have agreed to. Let's get stick to it, because there's nothing more to it. Because the founder may feel insecure after some period of time. Some may feel that I'm giving more time. Some may feel I'm being more productive. So if you write down your transaction, every transaction, I think it would be very wonderful way of creating a company that can be the next unicorn or the next biggest company of the country. But for that, you need to take care of the legal compliance. We just talk about very generic. It was a very generic session about Startup India. That's one part of the regulation, but there are a lot of other which you as a founder need to take care. This is just a simple advice. As a founder, you are the sales guy of your company. You are the director of your company. You're the manager of your company. You're the strategist of your company. Also, you are the lawyer of your company. So if you don't understand the legalities of your company, how would you deal it? Don't ignore it just because it's not coming in your story. So we hear in your story the funding news, the founder news, and all of that, but we hardly hear about anything on legal and compliance. But still important, even if it is not coming in use. Believe me, it's very, very important. So I will advise all the founders to note down what are the legal compliances that are applicable on a particular startup. Use this chart to be prepared that when I have to use it. Like it's your, at least it is in their mind that no, I don't have to do it right now. I just have to do it at certain stage. When it will come, I would know the how it can be done, and I will just do it. So this was, I wanted to share on Startup India. Just want to give you an introduction. This was not a very detailed session because there's a lot of things to actually talk about. If I pick just one, I would just have to keep talking about for the next 2 hours. But still, this is the first session. There are a lot of other topics that we can cover in the next month or the upcoming month. But to just to start it, this is what the idea I want to share with you. If you guys have questions, let's discuss that in the next 10 minutes.
Yes, I think. Thank you very much, sir. It was a real. I mean, it was really a brilliant session. It was very much insightful, though it was in very high speed, but because of short of time, but
Yeah, absolutely.
we were not willing to disturb you. Reason being, it was all good going. So it was so much of information. And now me being host will take some advantage of unmuting myself and talking first. I too have few questions. So if when you were talking about scalability, startups working in aerospace or some niche area, they won't be scalable. No? Like if someone is making rocket, making satellite, in that case, how is it treated?
So this scalability is not just in terms of about the number of transactions. It's also about the quantum of transactions. So in these spaces, you are scalable even if your transaction ticket size is very high. So for example, if I work on a rocket, which is of course is going to be crores of a transaction. So if I make one transaction for the country, or the scalability can be measured in two contexts. One is how much you own of how big is the market? How big is the market? When I talk about rocket, the market is very big. It's not small. One. It's second, it's a universal thing. So it will not be limited to India. If you find out something which is brilliant, you can sell it to other people. So your market is very big. It's not small. But the number of transactions is less. But in that case, you have to count the quantum of transaction in order to measure the scalability of that particular startup. So in that case, although the number of transactions may look small, but the idea is already scalable since it is required by the entire world. So you can cover it. The market is very big.
So those kind of startups are also supported by startup.
Absolutely, 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 absolutely.
Okay. Then one more request is like you can post your email ID. Many people are interested in the comment section. If you can post it. Second is like relevant links, video links, maybe documents or something.
What I'll do is, since there are a lot of links involved, since there are a lot of involved, and it will require certain description because this chat gets over the moment we end the session. Okay. Right. So what I'll do is I'll share an email with you.
Yes, which we will
right. Yeah, share with everybody. Right. Where what I'll do is I'll give a note that this link would be used for this purpose, even for the accessing the funds and other things which I mentioned. Normally, people miss out on that. So if they would have a note in their email basically they would be happy to keep it forever. So that it's not like the chat gets end and the session gets over. So I'll send an email to you, a customized email probably by Monday or Tuesday, which you can pass out to you or to your universities or also to the startups.
Very, very fine. Like we'll do that same thing. Now I would request if people having questions can raise hand and we will unmute them one by one so that he can answer them. Okay.
Yeah.
There is one person.
Lakshmi Narayan, Sumita has question. So let's take one by one. Lakshmi Narayan is
Yeah, good
please.
evening, sir. First of all, I would like to thank you. A fantastic session, sir. All points I have noted down. As Ustad mentioned, it's too fast, but I am able to cope up with your speed.
Okay. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Next time I'd like to be a little slow and would like to request the organizers to make it a little longer so that if I have to cover such a big topic, I'll be able to do it.
That was the only reason we didn't disturb you in between, because we are seeing time one side and speed one side. So we
Lakshmi Narayan, please go ahead with your question. Yeah, sorry.
Yes, sir. Sir, most of the session we have discussed about the startups. But is there any provision to start an incubation center?
Absolutely. There is a particular guideline available on Startup India as well, because incubations are also part of the ecosystem. Incubation, accelerator centers. So when you set up a co-working space, invite to nurture startups, there is a guideline by Government of India by which you can create an incubation center. If you are not able to do it, you still have an option to open a private incubation center, which is called accelerator center. So normally these incubation centers are government-backed or are on the basis of institutions. So these are Section 8 companies, and there are certain permission that is required to be acknowledged as a incubation center. The guidelines of which are already available on the website of Startup India. So either you can, if you do it through government or through a educational institution, you can set up an incubation. And if you want to do it privately, there is a different name for it, which is called accelerators. So you can also do that. And for that, guidelines are already there. As Lakshmi Narayan, I hope I have answered your question. Sumita is waiting for the next question. Probably I'll take Sumita's question and then Monali's and Ishwati. So Sumita, please go ahead.
Hi. I am based in Finland. I am kind of international Indo-Finnish business consultant here. So now I am working with my client. They have drone startup. Okay, and revenue not been generated yet. It's like they have taken the patent and they have built the product, and they have done some pilot in Finland. But now Government of India has banned the import of the drone.
Absolutely.
So in this condition, since I am involved with the company, they want me to advise how to take this to India. So this is I have no idea from an India point of view, but I was reading my own way, and in that it says like drone can be brought to India for the local manufacturing or joint venture.
Absolutely.
Or some kind of technology transfer. Okay, so but my worry is what should I advise, because I'm not so expert in this kind of business.
Not a problem. Sumita, just to answer you in brief, you should go for a venture joint venture, wherein there would be certain people in India who are working on similar technology, or if the founders are of Indian citizens, or they are residing outside but they are Indians basically, or if they are from Finland and they do not have any Indian context,
no, they are European citizen, Finnish citizen. So
then in that case, in order to gain the access of Indian market, you will have to come out with a JV, which is called joint venture, wherein you will have to roughly give you can keep your original organization in Finland, you can get into an arrangement with the local people who are working on drone. I can give you certain connects also, people who are actually leading the drone industry. You can get into create a new entity here in India, and with them you can possibly enter the market and also access the market to sell your products, and that would be a problem. But the only problem in that condition would be you will have to give at least 51% of the ownership to these Indian people who would not be the actual founders, but at least you'll get the access of the market. Since it will be a different entity, your the present entity would not be affected. So you just have to create this JV where you find out new people from India who are working in the same industry, or you can find out somebody who is not so active but is understand your industry and likes to work with you. So JV would be the best way to do it. Because even if you would like to set up a local entity, then the problem would be you would not have any people from here in India, and it would be very difficult to get benefits and access to the market.
My idea is that of course it will be like a company registration in Maharashtra.
Absolutely. No,
Okay.
you can do it anywhere the other people belongs to. So it can be in Delhi, it can be anywhere. So that won't be a problem. But for that, you need to create a JV. JV would be between your entity and the new entity, and a new company would be established under which every function would be done, and you can do the knowledge transfer and the technology transfer here, and the people sitting here can operate the business on your behalf. So probably I'll just limit myself to this because there's a lot we can discuss. You can connect to me over email. I've already shared my email, and then we can discuss in detail. So Manali, I'll just take your question next. Thank you, Sumita. I hope I tried to answer it, and we can discuss in detail, keeping it open.
Hey, hi. Thank you so much for this session. It's been so informative, and I particularly have been waiting for this pretty long. There are a lot of questions in my mind, and it's really been crystal clear up till now, at least to start with the registration. So we registered a company last year, and if we, get DPIIT recognized, is it the 3 years calculated for taxation benefits from the date of registration, or of the DPIIT, or it's the company registration? So
it is basically from the date of the company registration. You can take any 3 years. You can pick any 3 years in the next 10 years. Next 10 years. So whenever the company is registered, from that date of incorporation would be counted for that. But the eligibility criteria would be DPIIT. So the date of DPIIT would not be the basis. The basis would be company incorporation. And you have the next 10 years available. And also you need to keep in mind, it is for 3 consecutive years. When you choose, you have to be very wise that it should not be like, for example, you know that next year I'm going to make more revenue and I'm more stable. So then you should take this option. Normally, the trend is all the growing companies keep it for next 5 years. For the first 5 years, they know that they are at a scale where there'll be ups and lows. And the moment they are stable, they just pick this option for them.
All right. That's great. So my sister has a company which she started around 7 years back. So I think she will be eligible if she gets
absolutely.
Okay. This was really an eye-opener because I didn't know about this. Thank you so much. So if I do the application, will you be able to help me with the
absolutely. Anurag is also listening to us. He's one of the point of contact for all this kind of query, and probably he will also leave his number so that accessibility is there. And Aditya is, I think, is super nice in terms of enabling the ecosystem. I think he would be the best person to help you out to connect with us. And I think it will also keep a note that this much they have done for the ecosystem. And you can reach out to us for all of that, irrespective of what sort of query. Just to help everybody understand, we are an end-to-end startup solution giver. So we, even if startup which is at his day one, we can help out them for the entire journey, even if they are going for IPOs. To that extent, we have the bandwidth and we'll be able to do it. We are a company of like 50 people working dedicatedly on startups, and we are based out in Gujarat. So if you want to reach out, it would be a pleasure to help you, Manali. Thank you so much.
Sure. And then, so will you charge us for the
The
service.
consultation is absolutely just because you are coming through AIC, that's
Yeah.
for free. That's the leverage that you have. But in order, if we have a professional engagement where we need to give a dedicated resource to you to work out for you, of course it would be chargeable, but the charges are damn low from the market because we are kind of enabling the startup. So our charges is not as per the corporates, it is as per the startup. So it's a very basic charges just to take out the man hours that we are putting. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and we have already given certain rates made available to Aditya and through a MOU, which make sure that you are not charged unnecessarily. So
Yeah.
charges would be taken care. So we also understand the capital crunch that startups normally have.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much. And two more questions. So about the women entrepreneurs, is there any specific special benefit that you get in terms of either?
absolutely. There are multiple schemes that are exclusively made for women. In terms of benefit, in terms of distribution channel is mean, for example, there are certain goods and services that can be only bought through women-driven companies.
Okay.
So if your product lies in that category, you are exclusive. You can be the exclusive partner to outsource or source that product or service to government or to public company. There are second category is not taking much of the time. There's exclusive schemes driven for women. So you get fund from an exclusive fund that is created only for the women entrepreneurs. That also there are training modules exclusively designed for women, not only by the government but also venture capitalists like Kalari Capital. They have a very dedicated plan where they try to help the entrepreneurs to learn how the women can learn, and it's an exclusive program that can be. So funding, sourcing, learning, all that is exclusive. There are multiple plans you can access to. So probably I'll just move to Rishabh, taking your question. It was engaging though, but I'll just move.
Sorry, I just need one question about the patent.
I'll just let Aditya decide that.
No worries,
Okay.
no worries.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Please.
just one on the patent.
No problem. Please,
Struggling a lot of this.
No problem.
So you said that innovation is also on masses, on the problem that you're solving for masses, right? And software, I understand, has a lot of kind of restrictions in terms of the patent application.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So I would also like to understand if it's a software solution that you're targeting for sustainability purpose, right? And it's actually solving the sustainable goal. It's a solution for the sustainable goal. So can we file a patent against such a kind of
so of course for softwares it would be very rare. I think 99% chances are of rejection of a software. What you can do is you can since you have built a process, since you have a design involved in that, so rather than going for a patent, you should go for a copyright. Secure your code, because how it functions is important, how it is being coded by your software and by your engineers. That's important. It can be protected through copyright. So the software has a capability of being protected through copyright. Second is when you have a process or a design that you follow for your software or for your activity external to the customer, you can secure it in Design Act. So rather than, there is also a mechanism which I normally don't suggest, but I'm just telling you how entrepreneurs also do is take the risk of getting it applied. So at least you just throw it to patent, it will be at least will go for assessment, and then there's a hope that 1% chance is still there. So if it may be a thing that it creates a category. So normally at least you will have a patent number to tell somebody that I've already applied for the patent. Even if somebody tries to do it, I would be the first person to get it. So if you can do it, definitely you should try it. Otherwise, copyright and design is something that you should look for, and it will give you kind of a good confidence that you need for your product.
Thank you so much, and I'll really get in touch with you for all the slides.
Yeah, absolutely. And patent, if you really want to secure it, it's worth spending for a patent to take. It's worth taking the risk.
All right. Thank you so much.
Rishabh, please go ahead with the question. I think you have raised your hands for quite long.
Yes, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're absolutely clear.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir. And thank you for your wonderful speech. So, sir, I want to ask that how much time does DPIIT takes to give recognition to our application we have applied?
So normally it is in 15 days if there is no objection from the side of the government. So, or it's 3 weeks is the general time that happens. So if there are mistakes happening in your application, they would review it in after 15 days and give you another 15 days time. So normally this window is for 15 to 21 days. If you have filled it very correctly with all the requirements. Otherwise, they would like to close it in maximum 40 days with all the objection and other things. So that's the timeline normally being delivered. This DPIIT is delivered.
Okay, so counting all the rejections, so is there any maximum limits, like how much time we can apply?
There's no limit. So some of the applications are pending from 2017. So because nobody has tried to actually resolve the objection. So if you do, unless and until you resolve the objection, it will be kept as pending. So there's no limitation that if you don't resolve it by this date, you will be rejected. So nothing like that. Unless there is an upright rejection, there is no rejection with the virtue of time.
Okay, so we should just keep trying and trying to get the recognition.
Yeah, of course. And just to help you out, if you are not able to do it by yourself, of course, we can help you out to close it as soon as possible, because we don't want to keep it pending for long, at least for you.
Yes, yes. Yes. So, sir, we are a hardware-based startup and we are currently into prototyping stage. So
Okay.
I was listening to you that you mentioned that a government gave 1 crore something to incubators, and incubators a lot, like 20 lakh for prototyping and the rest 50 lakh they
Absolutely.
give.
Absolutely. You need to read a scheme which is available on the Startup India website. The scheme name is Startup India Seed Fund Scheme. In short,
Okay.
it is called SISFS. So it's a scheme that enables the startup which are at prototype stage. Okay, so you can apply in that, and you may get the upfront grant of 20 lakhs if you are that innovative.
Okay, so for prototyping, they would give maximum 20 lakhs.
Yeah. Once you share the progress with them, they would also help you get the another round of 50 lakhs. You're able to deliver what you are actually trying to do with the first 20 lakhs. So,
Okay, so
everybody, if you are really making something valuable, it's really solving the problem of people, and people are willing to pay. You are absolutely bang on the correct passage. So today or tomorrow, you're gonna get funded, not a big problem. Or your customer will make you flooded with the requests. So don't worry about it. But you just need to be very clear that you have created something that adds value to people, and people are willing to pay. So the signal is, if nobody's paying to you and nobody's coming to you to actually achieve it, there is a problem. And also, most of the people, common mistake done by founders is they create amazing product, but the product never reach out to the market. So it's useless to create something at your home and expect that it could be sold. So like, unless and until you go and tell people that this is I have made available, please take it, it's not going to work. So just telling with the normal experience.
okay, so last question I would like to ask that. So before applying in the Startup India Seed Fund scheme, yeah, should I take DPIIT recognition first?
So yeah, of course, it's a eligibility criteria. So minimum of that. If you don't take DPIIT registration, you'll not be allowed to participate in the seed fund.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
To take any
queries are
benefit,
answered.
yeah, to take any benefit that Startup India gives, you need to be DPIIT registered. Gautam, I think we should take the last question. We are already 15 minutes
Yes,
ahead of
running
this
out
session.
of time.
Yeah. Probably I have a meet at 5:30 also. I need to just run for that.
Okay. Then one
But I'll
last
take,
question, sir, from
I'll
Gautam.
just, yeah, I'll take that. I will not
Yes.
leave it like that. Yeah. Gautam, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question, and thank you
Pleasure.
for the session. See, sir, my question is that there are many technologies which are pretty common abroad in Europe and America. These are very high-end technologies, but they're pretty common there. But those technologies are not being manufactured or designed in India at all. They are only being imported in India. So if we are doing our own R&D and we are designing those technologies in India, manufacturing in India, so will it qualify for a grant? Will it qualify as an innovative product?
Absolutely, it would be. The reason is, see how the innovation works. It is based on the jurisdiction. So a company that has innovated something in US also has to take patent in India. So if somebody has created something in some other country, it may be innovative for that country, but not for India. So if you create similar product in India, you will be considered innovative, and also you'll be entitled to grant. So it is completely understood in the Indian scenario. So you have to, there's a world scenario, global scenario, there's an India scenario. So a product which is not present in India, you create it, and there's no company has taken patent over it. The innovation would be accepted, and also your grant, accessibility to grant and eligibility to grant would be admitted by Indians. So you are already innovative.
Now, sir, when we are applying for a grant, typically how many days does it take to get the grant?
So there is a cycle for every grant. So if there's a process, there are 6-7 stages of a process. The normal window is 90 days period.
So 90 days, we know whether we are being accepted for a grant or not, or how
not,
do we get the disbursement?
So 90 days, you will be in the first 90 days, the eligibility will be clear and you will get a term sheet. So if you don't get a term sheet in 90 days, term sheet is a basic letter to offer. So whether I'll be investing this much in your country, and there may be situation where the closure of the agreement may take time, because it depends on you and the government to review the terms of those agreements. So you may have certain comments to give, and you may have certain question to ask, which may take any number of days. But normally from the date you apply till the date you get the letter of intent is normal a period of 90 days, where you get to know that you are eligible, and also this much of the amount can be offered to you for the grant.
And disbursement?
Disbursement, it will be happening next 30 days. So you consider a period of 90 to 120 days to get the disbursement.
Yeah, great. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, I guess already we are running out of time, and for good things, time fly faster always. That's experience of everyone. But I think we can connect with you every time again. Many of our people are interested in connecting with you. So I'll share your details with them. Please do share all the links and things which you feel relevant. So I'll circulate these things with them.
Absolutely.
And it was really a wonderful session. Even
everyone
in our team and people are just, you can see whole chat box is full of thank yous and wonderful session and brilliant inputs for us. So I, again, with respect to your time, I think we should thank you now, and for everyone the session will close.
Yeah. Thank you, Aditya. Pleasure to be part of this session, and really you have been very appreciative. I think the very nice word you have already said to me. Just to close, what I'll say is, see, this is the regular activity as my initiative I'm doing with a lot of AICs also, and also with a lot of incubations. There are multiple number of questions that everybody wants to have answer, which are not even available on YouTube, Google, and all of that. It comes with the experience. So what we are doing is we are organizing session, a session at least a month. So that's how we are building, trying to make these entrepreneurs feel empowered about the legal and compliance requirements in the fundraising effort. So if you can directly connect with Anura, also check my availability. We can help these people who have so many of questions every month with a single session. And of course, we would dedicate this time to you without expecting anything from the other side. The idea is to just make the ecosystem so brilliant that we are, That's what we also expect.
So what we can do is we can circulate Google form or something where people can put their questions. We will send that to you. And then again, sometime next month, similar time, we can organize a session where you have some idea of what kind of questions and people are there. And then registered people will always be there. And now you don't worry, you are famous enough. People will be always waiting for your sessions.
That's nice of you. Really nice of you. Very kind of you to say that. I appreciate that. I'll just run because 10 minutes are there and I have to wait. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Especially those who have opened the camera, and there are a lot of secret recipes that are coming. And of course, I'll definitely share time to time. Thank you so much. Pleasure joining you.
Thank you very much.